Good afternoon and welcome to the Midday News. Here's what we have in the bulletin. Rushane Barnett to be sentenced today for the murder of his cousins in Cocoa Peace, Clarendon. 15 illegal garages closed down by the Kingston and St. Andrew Municipal Corporation. And later in sports, Sunshine Girls beaten 35-75 to New Zealand in second game on tour. I'm Shane Masters and here are the details. The sentencing hearing for Rushane Barnett, who confessed to killing his cousin and her 4 children in June, is underway in the Home Circuit Court. Barnett is to be sentenced by Justice Leighton Pusey. The injuries sustained by the victims and the caution statement given by Barnett to the police were read out. Barnett claimed that Kamisha Wright disrespected him in front of a customer, sparking the deadly attack. Now, he pleaded guilty on July 28 to the murder of Miss Wright, who was 31 years old, and her children, 15-year-old Commander Smith, 12-year-old Sharalee Smith, 5-year-old Raphael Smith, and 23-month-old Kishon Henry. They were stabbed and their throats slashed at their home in Cocoa Peace, Clarendon on June 21. More than a dozen illegal garages have been ordered closed and vehicles seized as the local authority clamps down on these operators in the corporate area. The joint operation involving the Kingston and St. Andrew Municipal Corporation and the police began yesterday. Some 15 illegal garages were closed down by officers from the Kingston and St. Andrew Municipal Corporation on Wednesday. The garages were identified in Vineyard Town and Henderson Avenue off Waltham Park Road. Police Commandant in the municipality, Dwayne Anderson, says 15 vehicles were seized in the Waltham Park area.
These vehicles would have been operated on by mechanics aligned to various illegal garages, and based on the fact that they do not have enough space on their property, they would have parked these vehicles, preventing other persons from enjoying the public space.
Mr. Anderson says while carrying out their operation in conjunction with the Public Safety and Traffic Enforcement Branch, PSTEB, they were threatened. However, he says his team was not perturbed. In the meantime, he says the operation will not be a 9-day wonder.
These persons are hell-bent in carrying out their activities and are relentless. Therefore, the council has to be relentless in our execution. What we would have recognized is not only that these persons are occupying the sidewalks, but they are simultaneously occupying the roadways, preventing pedestrians, motorists from traversing. Just imagine our school children coming from school being prevented by these motor vehicles from walking on the sidewalk. They have to walk in the roadways.
He's therefore appealing to individuals who are carrying out these practices to desist.
Failure to do so, the Kingston and St. Andrew Municipal Corporation will be executing their function in seizing and impounding these vehicles.
Did you serve notice on some of these?
We would have served several notices on these entities, but these people, our persons, would have been relentless and hell-bent in carrying out their activities.
The St. Thomas Police are reporting an 89% increase in murders in the parish when compared to the corresponding period last year. 34 murders have been committed in the parish up to September 17, compared to 8 the same time last year. Acting Commanding Officer in charge of the division, Deputy Superintendent O'Neill Thompson, says 21% of the murders committed in the parish have been solved. St. Thomas also recorded 132 major crimes up to September 17 compared to 117 for the corresponding period in 2021. In the meantime, 11 illegal firearms and 238 ammunitions have been recovered in the parish. The National Environment and Planning Agency, NEPA, is investigating another fish kill in the Dawkins Pond in Portmore St. Catherine. NEPA says a report was received from residents of surrounding communities yesterday. Dead fish was seen floating in the water stretching from the coast near Port Henderson Road to Edgewater. In June, a technical team from NEPA was also deployed to the area to investigate a fish kill. Senior Manager of NEPA's Environmental Management Subdivision, Richard Nelson, told the TVJ News that after the testing of samples, it was determined that the fish died from low oxygen levels. Mr. Nelson says this was due to the buildup of decaying sargassum. Weather patterns are changing and developing nations need to act swiftly as more countries take action against climate change. Minister without portfolio in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, Matthew Samuda, outlined some of Jamaica's plans.
Land and sea, two resources affected most by changes in climatic events. The livelihoods of farmers and fisher folks are at greater risk of being impacted by climate change. However, Minister without portfolio in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, Matthew Samuda, says Jamaica is moving to tackle each element.
We've been doing regenerative work on our reefs and our dunes to break wave action. These have been affected both by ocean acidification and rising sea levels, as well as by human inaction on matters such as sewage. We've been replanting mangroves at a rate that we believe is particularly important to protect our south coast. These would have been impacted by not just climatic events, but certainly human action over the last 30 years.
And to ensure the microclimate is protected, a national tree planting initiative with the aim of planting 1 million trees in 3 years.
We are at 1.5 million trees planted now with a 92% survival rate. We even have an app that tracks the placement of trees to ensure that we're putting in place the nature-based solutions that we need.
Mr. Samuda further explained that with the introduction of the Jamaica Systemic Risk Assessment Tool, JSTRAT, the country will be better guided to identify which infrastructure network is most vulnerable to climate risk.
This tells you all of your risks. It tells you which infrastructure is most at risk, so you're able to plan and invest accordingly. It also future-proofs the investments that you make. So in many ways, for investors, private sector, and indeed public sector, it de-risks the investments because you're very clear on what the risks are, so you know what level of infrastructure has to go where.
Codianne Barrett, TVJ News.
The Meteorological Service of Jamaica says it is continuing the severe weather alert for the island, despite little change in the area of showers and thunderstorms associated with the tropical wave over the southeastern Caribbean. In its latest bulletin, the Met Service said the wave has the potential to develop into a tropical depression or tropical storm over the next day or two. Now, unstable weather conditions are expected to spread over the Caribbean waters south of Jamaica within the next 3 to 4 days as the system moves westward. Fishers on the Keys and Banks are advised to evacuate immediately and start returning to the mainland. Other small craft operators in coastal waters are advised to return to port, and small craft operators who are in port are advised not to venture out. MP for East Portland Anne-Marie Vaz is calling on the National Housing Trust, NHT, to fulfill its commitment for a major housing project. She made the call on Wednesday in the State of the Constituency debate in the House of Representatives.
In my first constituency debate in 2019, I announced the Pasley Garden housing scheme from NHT.
I remember.
We have had site visits, I've had updates, but ground has not been broken. Therefore, all of this is beautiful speaking, which I do not engage in. Therefore, I'm calling on the NHT to take action on this. The same applies to the Bonebrook. This development to provide thousands of jobs for my people, Madam Speaker. I'm tired of the beautiful speaking. The time for action is now.
Mrs. Vaz says the constituency is eagerly awaiting the promised Port Antonio bypass to ease traffic congestion.
Discussions are far advanced for the Port Antonio Transport Centre. Madam Speaker, our taxi operators have been complaining bitterly, and our commuters need to wait for their mode of transportation in suitable surroundings.
In the meantime, MP for Southeast St. Mary, Dr. Norman Dunn, wants the National Water Commission to explore specific water systems for rural communities.
May I suggest that rural constituencies need much more standalone water systems to deal with the hilly terrain and the multiplicity of springs and sources. We see the same problem in Rosemount, Camberwell, Georges Oak, Montreal, Clark Castle. We will not always be able to find large source of water to supply multiple areas. But consequently, Madam Speaker, the NWC and rural water should invest in smaller community-based systems.
And it's now time for the Business Minute. Here's Codianne Barrett.
In business news, at a recent Petrojam stakeholders breakfast, the issue of the removal or reduction of the special consumption tax on gas was once again raised. But despite the mounting calls, this was Energy Minister Daryl Vaz's response.
But that is a strict fiscal situation which I would be out of line to get into any details other than to say that the policy of the government as of right now is that we are unable to do so.
And in global economy, the Bank of England has raised interest rates from 1.75% to 2.25%, the highest it has been for 14 years. The bank warned the UK has already fallen into recession. It is the 7th time in a row that the bank has raised interest rates as it tries to stem soaring prices. The move takes borrowing costs to their highest since 2008, when economists say the UK banking system was close to collapsing. And that's it for the Business Minute. I'm Cody Ann Barrett.
And it's now time for our regional and international stories. Here's Sandra Williams.
In the region, the director of the Pan American Health Organization, PAHO, Dr. Carissa Etienne, is warning of another growing health threat. On Wednesday, she indicated that while the COVID-19 pandemic continues to kill an estimated 4,000 people weekly in the Americas and monkeypox cases are on the rise, the polio virus has now been detected among unvaccinated communities in New York. As a result, the Dominican-born PAHO official is calling on countries, including those in the Caribbean, to urgently strengthen surveillance and routine vaccination campaigns. PAHO said polio, which can spread quickly among communities with insufficient vaccination coverage, is not a treatable disease, but is fully preventable with vaccines. On the international scene, a second person died Thursday morning following a 6.9 magnitude earthquake that struck the southwestern coast of Mexico. The police have reported that the first casualty is a man who died of a heart attack after the quake. The governor of Mexico City says he stands in support of the family members and has extended his solidarity. And those were the top regional and international stories. I'm Sandy Williams.
And that's the Midday News. I'm Rushane Masters. Join us at 7 for Prime Time News. On behalf of the news, sports and production teams, have a good afternoon.